There's a scene in Moneyball where Billy Bean, surrounded by old school scouts arguing about a player's girlfriend and his good face, realizes that the entire sport has been solving the wrong problem for decades. Football in 2026 feels increasingly like the moment just before that realization. Except instead of one Billy Bean having a quiet epiphany, you have 20 clubs simultaneously discovering that the most efficient path to victory runs through a well rehearsed corner routine rather than anything resembling artistry. Football has always been called the beautiful game, but watch a Premier League match today and you might struggle to see why. Passing stats are at record highs, dribbles at record lows. Goalkeepers play like midfielders, midfielders play like robots, and everyone seems terrified of making a mistake. Somewhere between the data revolution, the money explosion, and the tactical arms race, football has developed a full blown identity crisis, and the sport is only just beginning to reckon with it. This isn't a simple story of football getting worse. It's more complicated and more interesting than that. It's a story about money, pressure, risk, innovation, and human nature, and how all of these forces combined to produce a game that is simultaneously more optimized and less exciting than ever before. To understand modern football, you have to start with money because everything flows from it. The Premier League is the most watched domestic sports league on the planet. Games are near total sellouts. The global television audience is enormous. Broadcast rights deals run into the billions. And crucially, where a club finishes in the table is directly tied to how much money it receives. We're talking differences of tens of millions of pounds between finishing 7th and finishing 4th. Every point earned or dropped has a genuine butterfly effect on a club's financial future. Squad investment, stadium development, commercial partnerships, and wage budgets all hang in the balance. This is football's version of the Spider-Man paradox. Except here, with great money comes not great responsibility, but great paranoia. Add to this the explosion of sports betting and gambling, bookmakers generating their own ecosystem of pressure, scrutiny, and commercial interest around every single match, and you begin to understand the white-knuckle environment these managers and clubs operate in. Every game matters enormously. Every result is analyzed, dissected, and monetized almost before the final whistle has finished echoing around the stadium. The consequence of all this money and scrutiny is entirely predictable. Clubs become less willing to take risks. That's not a criticism, it's basic human nature. You invest money, you don't want to take risks, yet you expect higher returns. When the downside of failure is this severe, rational decision makers will always gravitate towards strategies that offer the best returns for the least risk. It's the same instinct that makes a poker player go conservative when the stakes get too high. Except here, an entire sport is playing conservatively at the same time, and the result is 45 minutes of sideways passing followed by a set-piece routine. Owner-operators like Matthew Benham at Brentford and Tony Bloom at Brighton represent a different model. Data-driven, long-term thinkers who've built their clubs around finding edges others ignore. Football's answer to Bruce Wayne funding gadgets while everyone else throws punches. But they remain the exception. For most clubs, short-term survival instincts dominate every decision. Nothing illustrates the brutal stakes of modern football quite like the managerial merry-go-round. This season set a grim record. 29 managers across the top 4 English divisions were sacked in the first half of the season alone. Among the casualties, Graham Potter at West Ham, Ruben Amorim at Manchester United, Thomas Frank at Tottenham, and, remarkably, both Ange Postecoglou and Sean Dyche at Nottingham Forest, a club that apparently treats managers like most people treat disposable razors. The sheer velocity of these sackings tells you everything about the environment these men inhabit. It's less a career and more a game of musical chairs played on a moving train. There is no patience, no long-term vision, no tolerance for a rocky transition period. You are always in the spotlight, every press conference scrutinized, every tactical decision dissected, every loss potentially your last. This pressure doesn't just affect managers personally, it colonizes their decision-making entirely. When your job could be gone after 3 bad results, You don't experiment boldly. You don't hand a 19-year-old 6 consecutive starts. You don't try a revolutionary tactical system that might take a year to bed in. You reach for what is safe, what is proven, what gives you the best chance of getting a result this Saturday. The pressure to avoid risk has produced a fascinating, if deeply frustrating, tactical stalemate at the heart of the modern game. Defenses have evolved rapidly and ruthlessly, where teams once defended in organized zones, leaving spaces between lines for clever attackers to exploit. The modern trend is towards man-to-man defending, players tracking opponents all over the pitch, eliminating those pockets of space entirely. The problem, as one incisive tactical analysis argues, is that attacking play hasn't kept pace with defensive evolution. Almost every team attacks using the same basic philosophy: positional or zonal attacking, inspired by Pep Guardiola's revolutionary Barcelona side of the late 2000s, where players spread across the pitch to occupy specific spaces and create passing lanes. The coaching world saw that Barcelona team and essentially never looked away, like students who discovered one perfect essay structure in school and have been using it ever since. But here's the fatal flaw. Because everyone attacks the same way, defenders have had years to reverse engineer the solution, mark the spaces, press the passing lanes, go man to man, and the entire system collapses like a house of cards. As Liverpool assistant Pep Linders described it, when opponents go man-to-man, there are no lines, no pockets, no free spaces. The attacking playbook has been read, memorized, and shredded. What's needed is something genuinely different, what some theorists call relationism, an attacking framework where players organize around combinations and movement near the ball rather than fixed positions. Instead of finding space and waiting, players find each other. Fluid, instinctive, unpredictable. Think less chess, more jazz. It's the difference between Light Yagami's meticulous, pre-planned strategy in Death Note and Naruto's chaotic, instinct-driven brilliance. Both effective, but only one of them impossible to predict. For now though, most coaches are still opening with the same gambit against opponents who've had the counter prepared for years. Faced with a dead end in open play, football's brightest minds have done what any self-respecting analyst does when the conventional approach stops working. They've found a loophole. And this is where the data scientists have truly earned their keep. Think of it as football's Moneyball moment, except instead of on-base percentage, the undervalued metric is the humble long throw-in. The numbers are stark and unambiguous. Over 4 Premier League seasons from 2018 to 2022, this following stat was revealed. A short throw-in near the opposition box produces roughly 10 goals per 1,000 throws. A long throw directly into the box, roughly 22 goals per 1,000 throws, more than double the value, for essentially zero additional cost. The counterattack risk is barely worth mentioning. As one analyst put it with admirable bluntness, long throws double your fun. It's the sporting equivalent of finding a cheat code that's been sitting in plain sight the whole time and nobody bothered to type it in. Corners have undergone a similar revolution. French club Lens are currently top of League One, and their secret weapon is a meticulously engineered corner kick system. 9 goals from corners alone, more than any other team in the league. This isn't luck or a hot streak, it's a designed, repeatable system. Outswinging deliveries from both sides, consistently targeting the central corridor between the 6-yard box and the penalty spot, with different runners and different deliverers keeping defenses permanently off balance. It's less a set piece and more a military operation. Rommel would have approved. Brentford, meanwhile, have turned the long throw-in into the Premier League's most refined tactical weapon. The kind of specialist ability that would get its own jutsu name in a Naruto episode. A staggering 63% of their attacking throws go directly into the box, the highest rate in the league by a distance. They generate nearly 4 times more expected goals per long throw than Nottingham Forest, who take similar volumes but without the system behind them. Because the system is everything. The real danger isn't the throw itself, it's the scrambling, disorganized defending that follows in the next 10 to 25 seconds. As Thomas Frank himself has said, the edge lives in the second phase, in the loose balls and the rebounds, while the defense is still trying to work out what just happened. This approach has gone from niche underdog tactic to mainstream weapon at startling speed. Brentford, Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, Tottenham, Newcastle, Sunderland are all on track to complete over 200 long throws this season. The loophole has been discovered, and now everyone is sprinting through it. Layered on top of all of this is a factor that affects every aspect of the modern game, like a slow acting poison: VAR. Introduced to eliminate clear and obvious errors, its side effects have been profound, pervasive, and largely ruinous for the spectacle of football. Every season since VAR arrived in 2019 to 20 has seen more added time than any season before it. The ball is now in play for an average of just 55 minutes 31 seconds per game, and as a percentage of overall match time, it's almost the lowest on record. Average delays before restarting play have risen every single year, now sitting at 29.2 seconds per stoppage. The cumulative effect is matches that feel stop-start, drained of rhythm, like watching a great film with someone who keeps pausing to check their phone. VAR has also crept into the psychology of players. The constant threat of review has made them more cautious in physical duels. The raw intensity that made derby matches electric has been quietly diffused. Goals are celebrated with one eye on the big screen, arms half raised, waiting for confirmation. The spontaneous, primal joy of football, its most precious and irreplaceable currency, is being slowly taxed into oblivion. New rules are trying to address time wasting at the margins. Goalkeepers must release the ball within 8 seconds. From June 2026, 5-second countdowns apply to goal kicks and throw-ins. Substituted players must leave within 10 seconds or their team plays temporarily with 10 men. Sensible measures, all of them, but sticking plasters on a wound that VAR itself keeps reopening. Step back, and the picture that emerges is one of a sport caught in a genuinely fascinating and uncomfortable transition. On the surface, Premier League football has never been more analytically sophisticated. Data scientists identify marginal gains in dead ball routines. Coaches build cross-sport networks to sharpen their thinking. Tactical systems are optimized to a level of detail unimaginable 20 years ago. And the raw numbers aren't even that bad. Goals, comebacks, and shot volumes are near record highs, suggesting the on-pitch product is better than the discourse gives it credit for. But the deeper problem is structural, a boulder sitting in the middle of the road that not enough people have noticed yet. The financial stakes have grown so enormous that risk aversion has become the sport's dominant philosophy. Managers are sacked before their ideas can take root. Clubs imitate the successful rather than innovate beyond them. Attacking frameworks have stagnated while defensive evolution has sprinted ahead. And the loopholes, set pieces, long throws, time wasting that teams exploit for marginal gains are increasingly the defining features of matches rather than their incidental background noise. It's football's version of Tolkien's Shire, comfortable, optimized, risk-free, and slowly suffocating. The adventure is out there. The creativity is out there. Someone just needs to be brave enough to leave the front door. Football is not broken, but it is sleepwalking. The sport that billions love for its spontaneity, creativity, and beautiful unpredictability is being quietly squeezed by the very forces, money, data, pressure, and scrutiny that was supposed to make it better. Finding the balance between optimization and artistry, between marginal gains and the game's soul, is the defining challenge of the next decade. The boulder is sitting right there in the middle of the tactical landscape. It always has been. It's just that in the age of data, deadlines, and desperate chairmen, nobody has had the time or the courage to look up and see it.